Being a Canadian politician these days certainly is pressure-packed, whether you're tackling housing and affordability or dealing directly with Donald Trump. A former leader is offering some guidance for those still in the lion's den. Former Ontario Premier Dalton McGuinty has released a new book called Be a Good One, Words to Lead By, and he joins us now here on City News 24/7. Mr. McGuinty, thanks so much for being with us.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So I have your book right here. I've been reading through it. I want to start with the very obvious question of how do you approach writing a book like this one here? Tell us a bit about the concept.
Sure. Well, by way of a bit of background, so I spent a considerable amount of time in politics, 23 years. My dad was in politics before me. My younger brother, David, has been there some 20 years now. So it's kind of in the blood. So I am a huge champion of public life and public service and public representation through politics. But it's not easy. And I feel, especially for younger Canadians who might be giving some thought, some consideration to entering into political life. And they come in wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, and that's understandable. And they bring all kinds of idealism and energy and a determination to do good things. But then once they get in, they find out it's not all smooth sailing. It's in fact rough seagoing. And people can quickly discover that they can lose their way. They can lose sight of the stars that guide them. Dark clouds roll in, so to speak. And so what I thought I would do is pull together a little bit of advice and wisdom that has been offered over the years. So I go back some 2,500 years. I've collected some 357 quotes, and it's all with a view to ensuring that young people particularly, and those who are already in office at the time, have some sense of what it means to be a good one. Be a good one is chosen from one quote where somebody once said, whatever you are in life, be a good one. For most of us, we'll have to ensure we were good sons and daughters, good brothers and sisters. Should we choose a partner in life, we'll have to ask ourselves, were we a good partner? Should we become a parent? Were we a good mom or dad? Were we a good friend to our friends? And I think the last one is, did we try to do something good, something of enduring value for others? There are all kinds of ways we can do that in life, but I think one of the best is through political service.
And you use quotes from everyone from Maya Angelou to Winston Churchill, Julius Caesar. I saw Voltaire in there, Socrates. I'm wondering if we can get personal here a bit. What's one that rings most true to you?
I think one of the ones I really like is from an Indian poet, Rabindranath Tagore, who once said, I slept and I dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and I saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy. And I know that politics can be rough and tumble, especially in 2025, when people have access to us all the time through social media. And not only do we have to deal with information, but we have to deal with misinformation. But if people can remember something that was impressed upon me by my parents, that the greatest privilege in life is to be of service, to do something of value to others and for others. And politics is a great way to do that.
Okay, let's stay there. We do have to speak some politics with you here and touch on your former party here, the Ontario Liberals. Some might say they're in a crisis, they're a bit of a mess these days, but what advice would you give the party as they're getting set to choose their next leader?
Well, stick to it. I mean, one of the weaknesses that we suffer as human beings is that our lives are so short. And the advantage I enjoyed of looking at this book, looking at the materials I collected for this book, and looking at literature going back some 2,500 years, is you get to see the major tides and currents and eddies that affect human history. The tide has been out for some time now when it comes to the Ontario Liberal Party. It will come back in. We need to be patient. We need to stick to a values-based, principled approach. We need to try to understand people and what they're feeling today. We need to understand the issues and how those have evolved to affect people's outlook and why it is that they are um, feeling very challenged in particular, and we need to find a way to speak to those. So I think if we bring patience and a genuine commitment to understanding, learning, and listening and connecting with individuals, connecting with Ontarians, things will turn around.
I want to ask you about another leader here. This is Doug Ford, who is currently dealing with controversy around his government's handling of the Skills Development Fund. So the allegation is that there was favoritism in selecting where this money went here. I'm wondering if we can get your take on this situation.
Well, I can't speak to the specifics of that, and I've made a real effort, Faiza, not to weigh in on current issues. I'm not focused on personalities of the day and issues of the day. We don't like to think of it, but somebody once said, graveyards are filled with indispensable people, and it took them about 15 minutes to replace me. And life goes on, right? So I feel for all politicians of all stripes. I'm grateful for the efforts they make. I ask them that they take into account through my book some of the lessons that have been offered to us going back many, many years, and be genuine and do what you can to give your very best.
And how would you rate the Premier's performance over the last 7 years?
I'll let others do that. All I know is that there are very few people over the course of Ontario's history who have had the privilege and great honor of serving Ontarians as their Premier. And my wish for Premier Ford is the same wish for all premiers of all political stripes. I think you need to be mindful of what people think about you. But what I learned, Faiza, is you need to be even more mindful of what you think about you. You need to do what you honestly think is right. Not easy, not comfortable, not convenient, and sometimes not even popular. Do what you think is right in these circumstances at this point in our history. And your career at some point in time when it comes to politics, like all careers, it will come to an end, and we'll be left with ourselves. And I think you want to be able to look in the mirror and say, I did what I thought was the right thing to do.
I think you can add that quote to the next book if there is a next book. Really quickly, can we do a rapid fire here, because you have 7 chapters in your book here, and you touch on topics like hope, perspective, learning here. So I was wondering if I can name a leader and you can maybe tell me why you selected a quote or suggest why they read your book here. So I want to start with the Ontario Liberal Party here. What chapter would you suggest the leader reads and why?
I think perspective is good because it helps us understand that we all come into politics with some baggage, with some biases, with some prejudices, and we need to recognize those. And then we need to see ourselves, Faiza. I think the best politicians see themselves as a work in progress, and they're determined to keep growing and to keep developing their understanding of not only the issues, but of human nature, and of finding a way to appeal to what is best in us. There are kind of 2 sides to all of us. There's our darker side and our lighter side. And I think the best leaders understand that and find ways to make appeal to what is best in us. I think at the end of the day, we want to know that we gave our very best as individuals and as a collective through our society, and the best leaders appeal to the better angels of our nature.
Okay, I got 2 more for you. The Premier, what chapter should the Premier read and why?
Well, I would recommend the entire book to any politician, Premier or not. I just think it gives us a good sense of what's happened throughout the course of history and how to deal with issues. And I think maybe there's a particular quote in there that has to do with the importance of compromise. All successful ventures in life are founded on compromise. I just celebrated my 45th wedding anniversary. We have practiced together the art of compromise when we're dealing with our children and when they were younger, talking about some issue where they're looking for some permission. At some point in time, some compromise worked its way into that. And I think we need to see compromise not as a weakness, but as a strength and as a genuine effort to build on some common ground.
Final question. Maybe I do know your answer since it's a third one. The Prime Minister, which chapter would you suggest Mark Carney picks up?
Well, I think that there's one particular piece of advice that I think is really suited to us at the time. And Julius Caesar said some 2,000 years ago. He said, nobody has ever successfully consulted their reason and their passion at the same time. Or as my mother would say, you can't be smart and angry. Which one do you want to be? So when it comes to dealing with Donald Trump, for example, my advice to the Prime Minister would be to be smart, take your time, play the long game. Let's not respond in a way that is emotional, but rather one that serves our purposes over the long term.
Okay, we'll end it right there. This is the book I'm holding right here. It's called Be a Good One, Words to Lead By. Mr. Dalton McGuinty, thanks so much for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.